Hello and a warm welcome to our Cenibra podcast, which we named Looking at Science, relating broadly to our product lines, looking at cells and looking at layers. My name is Christoph Enz, and in this series we engage with customers, suppliers, friends and business partners and talk about science and things around it, in a very general sense. We will meet with interesting people who talk about their work, their research and their experience with us, our technologies or our common playground in science. It can be quite specific, but we will also dive into broader aspects of scientific work and topics related to it. We're doing this not regularly, but in a very opportunistic way. So when we run into an interesting topic and conversation partner and all of us can squeeze it in, you will find something in this corner of our website. New episodes will be announced on our social media, so no need to subscribe here. If you like it, just enjoy and pop by again. And if you don't, please tell us so we can learn. In today's episode, our expert Jonas Schäfer is having a conversation with two young scientists with interesting backgrounds who are working in a place many people may not even have heard about. So, listen and enjoy.
My name is Jonas and I'm part of the Cenibra team, and as such I'm enthusiastic for life science and especially for characterizations of layers and interaction at interfaces. It's an honor for me to host our pilot episode of the Cenibra podcast, and today we are at the campus Zweibrücken of the University of Applied Sciences, Kaiserslautern. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome Pratika and Ahmar Hasnain as our very first guests in the interview series. Hello Pratika.
Hello.
Hello Ahmar.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for taking time. And the both of you are working on your doctoral research, right? In the lab of Alexey Tarasov, who is professor for biomedical metrology here in Zweibrücken. But both of you started with different backgrounds. While Ahmar studied polymer engineering, Pratika was a physics student.
Yes.
Would you please introduce yourself to our audience to give them an idea of who you are?
So, my name is Ahmar Hasnain. Thank you very much for having us on your podcast, first of all. So, a little background. I did my bachelor in polymer engineering from Pakistan. After that, I moved to Europe, specifically our University of Freiburg and University of Strasbourg. There I did my master's in sustainable materials. And afterwards, I started my PhD here in Zweibrücken. And in meanwhile, I am also enrolled as a PhD student in RWTH Aachen.
Great. And you, Pratika?
First of all, thank you very much for this interview. My name is Pratika and I come from India. So actually, I did my schooling and bachelor and also master's in India. So during my bachelor and master's in India, I did theoretical physics. And then I moved to Germany. Then I started studying in the University of Cologne, where I joined in experimental physics. So during my master thesis, I was also working in the research center, which is in Jülich, Forschungszentrum Jülich, where I worked again in the field of biosensors. And after that, I'm here in Zweibrücken. Under the group of Professor Tarasov, as you already mentioned. So again, I'm working in the field of biosensor. So yeah. So
okay,
that's
great. And as you mentioned, both of you are from abroad. What made you decide to study in Germany, or why did you choose Germany?
So for me, actually, my interest in studying in Germany started when I was in 12th standard. So, and then I also applied for the university after my 12th standard. I got accepted in the university. Unfortunately, the letter of approval, I received it very late. And the German embassy told me like I cannot apply in that semester, so I had to wait. But however, I didn't want to wait, so I just joined the university in India itself. And later on, after completing my master's again, so I thought of applying and then moving again here. So I came like that.
So for me, it was quite interesting. It wasn't on my radar. And then I happened to move to US for my exchange semester. And one of the professor was in Germany for some conference. And once he went back, so during a class he mentioned, any of you if get a chance to study, you should go to Germany, because the level of research, technology he came across in these conferences and people, it's really, really great. Okay. So that was like first point where I thought, okay, I should maybe go and check it, And so I think that's where it started. And then I moved to Germany for my master's afterwards.
Okay, great. So even compared to the US, Germany has high standards in methodology and stuff like that.
Personally, I think so. Because here in Germany is more centralized system when it comes to research. It's not really privatized as compared to some other countries. I think that's why there is a good control on all the institutes from the top. And then due to that, there is a really good environment and competition among each other in Germany. That's how I came across.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with your different backgrounds in mind, what made you choose one project in biomedical metrology?
Yeah, so I mean, that's also another point here, studying around here in Europe, because during masters you get to experience different types of methodologies, different labs and courses. There is a large range. So I got some courses during master's program about biosensors, and then I happened to have my master thesis on electrical sensors, and it kind of came together, and I decided to then move and switch to biosensors. And I probably, because I started right in Corona situation, in those days, these diagnoses and sensor, it was like a hot topic. And I think that also somehow pushed me, okay, it's really interesting, something new. I should really get into it. So I got the opportunity and I just grabbed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for you also Corona, or what was your motivation?
So my motivation, actually I always wanted to contribute something in the field of medicine. So always it was my interest. So when I was doing this masters in the University of Cologne, I came across to one of the professors. So he was a professor in the university, and also he was one of the group leader in this Forschungszentrum Jülich. So actually he was working in designing this biosensor interfaces and so on. So and during that time I felt, this is another opportunity where I can combine the knowledge of physics and biology together and contribute something in the field of medicine. For example, if we develop some kind of interface that can be used in the field of medicine, that would be awesome. So that's my interest, why I joined this group, and also why I came here.
Okay, so you're both focusing on biosensors. In the development of biosensors. Yeah. Do you focus on different type of biosensors and what kind of them, or do you work in the same project, just different branches of it, or what's your PhD project?
Yeah, so basically in biosensors you have different approaches. We have first a ligand part, and then on top we have an analyte part. This analyte is really a vast range, so there are a lot of biomolecules that you can kind of use as an analyte. You can use specifically blood cells, serums, antibodies, different materials. And so there are really a lot of variety. So currently what we are focusing, we have different projects. In my project we are specifically working with some peptides, and in her case it's different. So it's really focusing on project base and what are the goals of these projects.
Just one more, these peptides, you want to detect those in solution, or do you immobilize them on your sensor surface?
So this peptide would be a ligand on my sensor surface.
I see.
And then these analytes would be ultimately blood cells.
Okay. And for you, Pratika, which way are you going?
So the interface, I would say it's more or less same. I'm also designing a peptide interface, but the analyte is different. So in my case, we aim to detect some particular enzymes which are taken as spatial biomarkers for cancers. So
I see. Okay.
that's the difference in my case than his. Yeah.
So you're both facing on a bottom-up approach.
Yes.
And functionalizing your cell surfaces with peptides,
Yes.
Right.
and then aiming for different analytes.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I see. And how do you control these separate steps of your preparation? Do you choose like buffer conditions for preparation, or do you work in the same pH, for example, all the time, or what are the basic conditions of your experiments?
So, I mean, it totally depends on your system you're working on. So, if your end goal is some special biomolecules, which they need special physical conditions, for example, cells, they really need special environment. Then you really have to cater your whole sensor from first step to last step according to that, your target. And so in my case, it is like this, I have to take care that the end goal is blood cells, which is really tough, and they really need a lot of care. So the whole thing, the parameters like temperatures or pH, all these things are really dependent on my analyte in the end.
Okay. Same for you, or is it some kind of different?
It's almost same like what you mentioned. Like we look for the end goal, what we want to introduce, and depending on that, because at the end we want to use this sensor for medicine, right? So that means we need physiological environment. So keeping in mind, we try to introduce buffer, which is physiological buffer, and pH, which is around 7.5, which is again physiological pH, and the temperature, which corresponds to your body temperature. So we really try to focus on those parameters, during our assay development.
Okay, but when saying that you immobilize peptides on your sensor surface, do you somehow control whether the surface is fully covered by your peptides? Do you use, for example, fluorescence labeling to see whether there are defects in your monolayer of peptides, or how do you control these?
This is one of the steps to do it. We are working on it currently.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now we mainly depend on MP-SPR, the technique we are using right now. But there are, as you mentioned, some labeling options with this microscopy. So this is a way to go to control it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. Like at the moment, we are just trying to establish the assay, and then we know that we have to do this control measurement with other instruments. So we are thinking about it, but at the moment we haven't done it. So we will do it in the future.
So currently you are focusing on multiparametric SPR.
Yes. So
And what benefits do you see in this technique?
So for example, as you mentioned about this optimization of our sensor or ligand on the surface, in traditional technique, we just have one channel. In this technique, we have two channels actually. Yeah. So these two channels give us a really good benefit of controlling your surface. Yeah. So on one channel, you can have your target surface or required surface. And on the second channel, you can have your control, And upon comparison, then you can have an idea, okay, how is this immobilization of your specific, for example, in my case, peptide, compared to another control that we are using, or some blocking agent we are using. So this gives us a really good information. Probably this is also one of the reasons that we haven't moved to another technique so far, because our goal was to stick into this one technique initially until we kind of conceptualize this whole assay. And then once we need optimizations, we can channel in different techniques at each step,
Of course, you first have to understand your system in general, and then you can... make it more difficult, of course.
Right.
Do you, when using MP-SPR, of course you can focus on kinetics, so interactions and stuff like that, but also since we have multiple wavelengths, do you also determine the layer thickness of your peptide monolayers that you establish, or did you use that feature of the technique so far?
So I have tried using a lot, which is why I have several questions to you and to Mr. Martin also. So I actually tried to have a look how the surface thickness is changing of the linker molecule. I mean, I have tried a few times for the peptide, but in intensive way I have tried to look at the thickness of the linker molecule below, so how it is changing. Looking at this thickness, I was trying to see if I can get an idea on the conformation of my linker molecule. That's one of the most important steps to understand. So yeah, for sure. But in the future, I'm now trying to look at this thickness and then try to also study on the surface coverage, so have an idea on all these things.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Okay. As you said, you're currently focusing on MP-SPR. Do you see, or what do you like most of the techniques, and where do you see potential to optimize?
So if I think it through my prism, especially for my use, for example, as this MP-SPR have a really good feature to use cells, living cells, which is quite unique, I think so. And when we talk about cells in biosensors, like one of the key parameter is the nature, or you can say the health of cells on our surface, biosensor surface, their shape, how good or how well they, attach there on the surface. So, I mean, there is no as such way to do that. This is like one way. The other way is people use, for example, impedance measurement a lot of the time, for example, in other techniques with cells. So if somehow that technique is incorporated in this current setup, that would also be, I think, really plus, especially in biosensors applications. Yeah.
So the addition of impedance.
Impedance or some sort of like on surface microscopy, or one way to do it.
Okay.
That would be, I think, really good selling point in future.
And it would open quite new fields, I think.
Exactly. It would be really, really great. I think so in this application. Yeah.
And do you have any wishes or ideas?
Yes. So for me, I haven't worked with the cells, so I'm just working with peptides and small linker molecules.
Yeah.
So I find it really interesting that MP-SPR is really sensitive. Like even if there is slight change in the sample solution, I see the difference, and you really can make out. And the other important thing that I saw is like if there is some change in for example, as I said, like the peptide, if we do it outside this MP-SPR, we just incubate it, but we don't know how it is actually binding there. But if we do it in situ, you can actually see how is it behaving, like if the peptide that we have received from the company is good or not, we can also have an idea on that. And so I find it really interesting to work with this instrument. It is really sensitive, and you can really have an idea on your overall experiment. Yeah. The thing which I want to, I would wish to have something in this device is the option to change the temperature in between. So,
so temperature gradients?
Yes, so it would have been nice if I can change the temperature in between when I'm running the auto-sampling, this run table. So
when starting your the injection of cells, for example, later on, then you increase the temperature?
Yes, that would be really nice because when I'm working with my molecules, then I see like some of the molecules are good at lower temperature because like it depends on the kinetic energy of the molecule, and we know that with temperature the kinetic energy can be different, right? So this is the one of the most important thing which I would want in this MP-SPR. And of course the channels, like the sampling channels, I feel like we have 6 channels. So one is for air for sure, but at the moment sometimes we also have to use this channel number 6, which is for air, because of the insufficient some channels.
The amount of channels is not enough.
So if we plan for bigger experiments, then we need more channels. So this would be nice in the future, like if we have more channels.
Okay.
And the other problem, which I see, is this time delay between these 2 channels, between these 2 flow cells. So there is, what I have experienced is there is always time delay between the channel number 1 and channel number 2.
When working in serial mode, or what do you...
While working in this parallel mode.
Okay.
So there's always like 3 to 4 minutes, like time delay. I don't know whether this is our problem but I see that one.
Okay.
So it would have been nice if we could improve this, and if we have both channels responding at the same time.
So simultaneously,
more or less at the same time, and not keeping this huge difference. And so that, because this is important at the end when you try to analyze your data, then if there is this time lag, then there can be shift in this time, and then you cannot really compare channel 1 with channel 2. So I'm at the moment having difficulty to compare these channels.
Due to maybe degradation processes taking place at the surface, or what impact does the time delay have on the surface? Or
this is we see it even on the fresh chip.
Okay.
So not only me, he also sees that. So that's the question which I'm asking, like why is there so much time delay? So
this is due to the valves, and that since a simultaneous injection in both channels is not possible when working in parallel mode, but we will focus on that later on.
Okay, thank you.
In a best case scenario, how will your findings affect their respective fields? So I think you already mentioned it in the beginning. You are aiming to have a device somehow that will be applied in medicine.
Yes.
And I think the same is for you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
What do you want to detect with your biosensors? A specific disease, or what are you aiming for?
So, I mean, for me, because it's typically focused on disease diagnostic, so yeah, it is for a specific disease. With the development of current biosensor, we are kind of, decreasing the initial time of diagnostic, or during the healing process, the progress of healing, So these are different steps we can control, and these biosensors, they help us minimize the time, In some cases or some diseases, you really need to monitor your patient maybe after every hour, and some old techniques takes few hours to get some, update or results with this disease. So really, the goal is to decrease this time period for diagnosis or progress, but also at the same time to improve the qualitative analysis, the quality of this diagnostic should also be top notch and compared to other techniques. So I think that would be the end goal for my project, if I can contribute towards it.
Okay. Great. Okay.
So in my case, as I mentioned again in the before, we really want to develop this biosensors to detect some kind of biomarkers, especially for cancers.
Okay, good.
So we are focusing on, at the moment, we are focusing on one specific biomarker, which is, which is involved in a number of cancers or cardiovascular diseases or Alzheimer's disease, or all this kind of diseases. So this is one of the important biomarker which we want to detect. And with our biosensors, we mainly want to focus on the specificity, selectivity, and of course reproducibility should be there. And the most important thing is the limit of detection.
Yeah.
We really want to go to a very low limit of detection so that we can detect these enzymes at a very low concentration, so that we can, if we put it in our patient, then we can detect even lower concentration, and then that means we are detecting at its outset. So if we can really find out this low, if we can really develop this kind of sensor, then it will be really.
Are these enzymes, are these only present when cancer or someone is infected by cancer, or is there a steady level of these enzymes in blood, or which fluid will you test for?
At the moment, we are just using purified enzymes, but later on we want to detect it from the cells. So actually, these enzymes are already present in our cells. So these are involved in a number of physiological processes. They have to be there. But then at some point, they start malfunctioning. And then if it starts malfunctioning, then they will cause this different diseases. So, yeah. So later on, we want to move on to the cells. So then we want to detect this enzymes released from the cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think with cancer, there's only one big field in biosensor development mentioned. Are there other trends in biomedicine going on right now that you are aware of, or? Are there special diseases? Like 2 years ago, it was all focusing on corona. I think this is now calming down.
Yeah.
Is cancer number one, or are there other things like diabetes or something like that that you are aware of?
Yeah, I think so. Especially like diabetes, this blood sugar level, you really need continuous monitoring. I think there are already some sensors for that, but still there is a lot of room of improvement. So you said it well, that diabetes, but also people are trying to use it, for example, in sports therapy, or for example, muscle development or muscle fatigues, and also if you have some issues with your neurons or with brain tumor. So I mean, I think there are a lot of options. As I mentioned in start, we can use different. The good thing is we can use different analytes, and then once we can use different biological analytes, we can actually go to any disease we are facing at the moment. The only thing is it good enough qualitatively, quantitatively, and is it financially suitable? Also, that is one point. But I think you can really move around and play around with different diseases.
I think I heard a couple of times now, it's a century of biology with all the vaccines based on viral particles and stuff like that, and the specific targeting that you are focusing on. I think we are now done with the research-related part, because you don't want to tell us all your secrets. And since you are both from abroad, and you mentioned already that you faced some problems when enrolling in Germany for the university, did you face other difficulties when coming to Germany and starting your studies, or your master's or your PhD or something like that?
I think in Germany there is only one problem.
Okay, and that is?
And that problem is not only for foreigners, it's also for Germans. And that problem is, we call it Wohnung.
Wohnung?
I think even Germans will agree with that, you know. So I think for students, it gets a bit tough in start to find a place or student accommodation.
Coming to a new town, knowing nobody. And
exactly. And then also this language barrier makes it a bit tough to communicate your way out of this situation. So probably I think this was the initial headache for all of the international students. Yeah. Other than that, I think it's somehow fine.
Okay.
Like with time, you can deal with these things.
You get used to it.
Get used to it. You get used to bureaucracy,
Yeah.
And you get used to all these delays and stuff. And but then but the good thing is, in the end, it's there is always a solution. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's solved. Yeah.
The bureaucracy is it difficult to have contact with the German administration in English? So are they capable of speaking English or?
It depends where you are based.
Okay.
If you are in some metropolitan cities, there are actually people to help you out in English also. But if you go to some small towns or if you live in small cities, then it gets a bit tough, with this bureaucracy. And you really need some friend to help you out with the language.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of general overview in Germany.
Did you experience the same?
Yes, the language was one of the problems which I faced. So when I reached Germany, I just had A1 level, Guten Tag, Guten Morgen, that's it. And then I landed in Düsseldorf airport and I didn't have a SIM card and so on. So I had to call my relatives to take me. But I went to the person, to the security, I was asking, I don't have SIM card, could you help me, to contact my family. But then he was speaking, nein.
Okay.
And they were not ready to help me. So I don't know if this is the problem. I'm the only one who faced this problem, but yeah. And then I even went to the receptionist. She was not willing to speak in English. So that was the problem which I faced. And I was feeling okay, I want to go back home. But then there was a young lady, and then I thought oh, she might be helpful. I just went her and she helped me.
Okay,
so
that
was the good thing, at the end I got.
Okay.
But language was the
biggest barrier.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see. And since I did my PhD in the university, so quite classical way of going. After my studies, I remained at the university and did my PhD. In contrast to you are doing the PhD at a University of Applied Science, and as you mentioned, you are still enrolled in Aachen, and you are in Mainz, right?
Yes.
Is it somehow difficult, or how do I have to imagine this process of enrolling and organizing everything for your PhD?
So for me, the enrollment was not a problem,
okay.
Because we have this big group and some of the PIs are from the University of Mainz itself. So that was really helpful for me. So, and even my group members, they were really helpful. They helped me to find out what are the things that I have to fill in and so on. But the process was really easy for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, just to clarify to our international listeners, maybe they think that university and this University of Applied Sciences, they are really, really different. If you talk about research, the facilities, pretty much you get everything in both cases or in both type of universities. So from that perspective, there was no issue. But yeah, you have to enroll in a university. So in Germany, you have kind of freedom to enroll anywhere where it's possible or where you have your background matching or your project, So it totally depends on your the person who is taking you under your supervision.
Okay.
And in my case was a previous professor who worked in this University of Applied Sciences. So he was willing to take a student from his previous institute. And also some of the techniques I'm using right now, it was also kind of developed by him.
Okay.
So it was for me also easy. But I can imagine some people who are directly coming from outside in Germany. There is always some prerequisite courses, you have to do some extra tutorials and stuff. And I can imagine that can be tough. But if you have done your master's within Europe, most probably you won't need it, and things gets easier, for the enrollment process of the PhD.
Okay, I see. And what about the framework of your PhD? Is it set by the university where you are enrolled in, or how is it set, like the duration and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, the university you are enrolled in, they have these specific requirements that we have to fulfill, duration and the number of publications, or regular updates on your project, something like that. But it also depends mainly on your supervisor, I think so.
Yeah.
So it's quite free or flexible
Kind
system.
of, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, this from university, from top, I mean, there is a standard set,
Of course. Yeah.
Under that standard, then it's also dependent on the supervisor. When he feels comfortable, I think one is good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we already got an idea in the beginning, but what do you think of the German scientific landscape and its organization? Is it what we always, when talking about Germany, it's a big part of bureaucracy, or what is your opinion on that? Is it well organized or too well organized? And did you experience so far?
I think for me, Germany really has a broad and excellent scientific landscape because and in this landscape we see that there are as Ahmar before mentioned, there are a number of institutions, for example, university-based or non-university-based. There are also companies which offer you this research facilities, and these companies again work with universities or other organizations. So Germany really has a broad scientific landscape, and I find it very interesting. Even the state is involved in this, research and funding. So for me, Germany has really a good place where we can do the research and development, and they really take care of this. So
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, as we mentioned, bureaucracy, that it's a bit slow, but still, I think when we are running these big projects, which are 5 years, 4 years, or sometimes 8 years long, you really need some good controls, and some good check and balance. And I think Germany did really well. Okay. There are regular checkups on these projects, and of course, if you need really some special things, you can manage it a little bit in advance. So you're not late.
Okay.
But overall, the facilities are pretty good, as I mentioned. Either it's a big university or a small Hochschule. You will pretty much get whatever you need for your research. And if you don't get it, you always have an opportunity to go to your neighboring institute and do it. So it's really really interesting, and they kind of really merged it. A proper scientific society, I would say.
Okay.
I would say that.
Working together, cooperation.
Working together, exactly. Okay. A lot of cooperation between companies, universities from Germany, from outside Germany, outside Europe. They really managed it well.
Okay,
so,
that's great.
It's good.
Do you already made plans when you finished your PhD? What do you wish to do afterwards?
I would say During PhD, you think your day-to-day routine.
Yeah.
If you think too much, you lose control.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
facing the daily struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I work in that manner. Yeah.
Okay.
Day to day or maximum weekly. But in long run, for sure, I think I would love to go further in education, and if this PhD, what I'm trying to do, it works. Maybe I would try to dig a little bit deeper and go for a postdoc in some of my favorite institute. I think so, but you never know.
Okay.
I'm still halfway through, so I still have a lot of time to think it through.
So remaining in academia is an option for you?
It is an option, I think
Okay.
so. It wasn't an option in very beginning, but these are phases.
Yeah.
Your relationship with PhD is also complicated.
Changing, yeah. It's already
it changes
changing,
continuously.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
and for you, Pratika?
Yeah, that's what. For me, I would love to go after my PhD. I would like to go to the industry, so
Okay.
not stay in academia, so academic field. So yeah, to the industry. So at the moment, so
Okay.
At the moment.
At the
yes,
moment, yeah.
this is my plan. Yeah.
How long have you been in your PhD studies?
So my whole period is until next year. So.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Okay, so still time left
Yes.
to
think
redecide
to think about it, and
Yeah.
then like how it goes. So as Ahmar mentioned, like it changes.
It changes.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
but at the moment, I would like to go to the industry.
Mhm.
Yes.
And when doing so, would you like to stay in Germany or going back to India or somewhere else in the world? What would you like to do?
I would like to stay in Germany.
Okay.
So yes. So that's my.
So you really like it here?
Yes, I
Okay.
like it here. So
Could you also-
I am planning to stay.
Could you also imagine staying in Zweibrücken?
So
I don't think the audience could see you shaking your head. So
not really in Zweibrücken, but I would love to move to bigger cities.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see.
So from landscape to metropolis.
Yes.
Okay. And for you?
For me, I think I would like to experience also other European countries. So I would love to move around within Europe, probably.
Okay. More to the south or north or east?
Oh, okay. I'm not good with directions.
So no proper country in mind.
Me.
Just
No proper country, I think so. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I will see.
Ganz west.
Ganz West.
Yeah.
Belgium or Netherlands?
I think more towards like Switzerland, maybe.
Okay. I see.
I think so. I
Yeah,
got
it's
it.
a great place or great
Because
country.
I did my internship there in Zurich, and I really liked it.
Yeah, and I think Basel and Zurich are real lighthouses for biosensors
Yes.
or developments in biotech.
Exactly.
And-
So I think, I found the country in this podcast.
Great. I would like to do at the end some fading out. And since you experienced quite a long time now Germany, I would like to ask you for the strangest German habit you faced so far. Is there something specific you have in mind?
Actually, yesterday we were talking about it. That people don't like to eat fruit from their backyard.
They don't like.
They don't eat it. Right?
I think it's coming back. I
It's
think
coming back?
it was a period now where no one had fruit or vegetables in their backyard. But with increasing prices, I think people are starting to grow.
Yeah, because
again.
I experienced this, even when there was, and they kind of resisted. No, maybe there must be some issue or something,
okay.
So
Okay.
a little bit too careful.
Yeah,
For
I see.
for coming from Pakistan, I was like, wow, you're missing the biggest opportunity.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. I see. Okay.
That was really strange, And so sometimes I just laugh at it.
Yeah.
But I think with this inflation, I think people are learning quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the same for you?
That's what I experienced. I was sharing him the same story. Like I was once with this in a group of German people, and then I was plucking this fruit, from the backyard, and I was eating, and the guy told me like, why are you eating that? Like es kann sein, da sind kleinere Tiere.
Yeah, like worms or some other
so
insects.
And then I said like, okay, like in India, like you don't see the fruit until and unless they are ripe, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Everything is gone. So it's
Okay.
like that. Yeah. Apart from that, like I had a big cultural shock when I came here.
Okay.
One of the big thing was like because the Germans are very straightforward, like that thing. So they don't think like they just tell you. But now I find it interesting, and I like that also. So if I share you one story, so we were again in a group, and somebody was cooking and asked me like, do you like to eat this thing, And I said like, no, I don't want it. But later on, the food looked delicious. I really wanted to try it. But then they told me like, no, now you can't eat it because you told like
You said no, yeah.
You said no.
In the first place.
And
Okay.
in the beginning, like I felt it was some kind of racist, Like I thought, like maybe they are doing just to me, I felt really bad because this is different in my country.
Yeah.
Like we really think, about others' emotions,
sharing and
sharing, like that. But then later on, I saw like they are behaving in the same way to the child also. Then I thought like it's same for everyone.
Yeah, you have to stick to your decision.
You have to stick to your decision. So I would love to take this as a lesson, like which I really want to imply in my life also. I like it. I don't know why, but I like it somehow for now because and these things, they are practical, but true, they tell you what it is, and they don't lie. I mean, they don't say like it's good if it's not good on you. So they say it is straightforward.
Okay.
So
That's great. And would you have ever expected when you were a child to be developing biosensors, or what was your dream job when you were a child? Do you remember?
I think I wanted to be in sports, like cricket. I hope
see.
some of my audience knows it because it's not common in Europe.
Yeah.
But then I think in high school I was like, yes, I have to go into technology or engineering. You know? And then developing biosensors. No, that was not. I didn't even know what it is. But I think, right now where I am, I feel motivated and interested in the stuff I do. So I think I'm at the right place. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
For me, like since I was a child, I really wanted to be astrophysicist because I was amazed with the stars.
Okay.
So that was the thing. Like I really wanted to do astrophysics. So when I came here in Germany, actually I also applied for astrophysics in the University of Potsdam. I got I got accepted, but however, due to my health condition, I couldn't go there.
Okay.
So and then
Unfortunately.
but then after that, like it changed. Then like I wanted to do something, as I said, in the field of medicine, and then this is how I joined.
You missed your chance to go to Mars.
Yeah, I mean,
there will be in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a child, that was my dream, like looking at
Going
the
far.
sky.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
so but it changes.
I always wanted to be a firefighter.
Oh wow!
Nothing special.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it's quite German way.
A firefighter.
Like I know some of my friends. Oh, I wanted to be in police.
Yeah.
Or I want to go into nursing specifically, or firefighting. So I mean, I think it's a bit more clear here in kids from the young age, compared to like in my culture, or maybe it's because of schooling system,
maybe
or
schooling or books or series that are
Exactly,
in TV,
exactly.
always focusing on police or firefighting.
However, nursing, I haven't heard about the Germans who wanted to do nursing because they say like it's hard, you know, like that. But firefighter and police, yes, of course.
Okay.
Because it may be because of the story they hear during night time sleep, you know.
I think so.
Something like that.
So they hear a lot about this story. They hear a lot of stories on this topics.
Okay.
That could be the reason.
Okay.
Great. Finally, I would like to end this episode with a block of quick decisions. I have here some questions or options for you, and you have to decide in a fast way which option you would go with. Okay, I would just state the option and then you directly decide. So, focusing on lab journals, would you prefer digital or an analog lab journal?
Digital.
Analog. I'm
for
the
me,
old school.
I can carry anywhere, so digital.
Digital, okay. And quantum mechanics or classical physics?
Quantum mechanics.
Classical physics. I hated quantum mechanics.
I see. Natural or synthetic polymers?
Synthetic.
Yeah, for now synthetic because we have to work with
Mathematical modeling or experimental validation?
Experimental validation.
For me also experimental.
Also even as a physicist?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you like more? Going to scientific conferences or doing a scientific workshop?
I would prefer conference.
Yeah, for me, like workshop would also be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Why workshop? So
I mean, you get to see like they do it. What's going on? So that's
okay. And you for meeting
For
people?
Me, no, you get to see what others are doing.
Right. Yeah. Good ideas.
So like
you
to expand your landscape, because in PhD you really need this reflection inputs and reflections. Really, you cannot be one directional.
However, in workshop also like you can really see others' work, like but you see it. So
did you attend already some scientific conferences, and which ones? When?
I'm planning to do this year.
Okay.
It's in Sweden, but I have to wait. Yeah.
So for me, like I'm also going to the conference, but it's in Aachen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Do you prefer science fiction movies or science documentaries?
Documentaries.
Yes, science documentary. But I also like fictions. So also both.
But in fiction, I really like the concept, most of the concept where they use time.
Yeah,
okay.
Time traveling.
Time traveling or...
about this, again comes the quantum mechanics, everything there. It's really interesting.
I really like the fact that some ideas of science fiction get into reality.
Yes.
Like the things that they did in Enterprise, like this tractor beam.
Yeah.
We are currently working with these light traps in atomic force microscopy, for example.
Okay.
These optical tweezers. It's something like in tractor
science
beam,
fiction
right?
movies. Yeah.
So some ideas from fiction are getting real nowadays.
Yeah, right.
So.
I think so. And there is very interesting movie In Time from 2011, I think, where they use time as currency.
Mm.
So when you work, you get time on your life.
Really?
So if you work 8 hours, you will get an extra 24 hours of your life. Mm-hmm. And if you go for a coffee, you have to pay 20 minutes from your life to get a coffee.
Well, which movie is this? I have no
I think it's with Justin Timberlake and...
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But it's really interesting. You should watch it.
So this is really, really interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Especially where the things are going nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
I can see it happening.
Yeah.
I think so. But it's super interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, focusing more on your home countries, and you mentioned already you were into sports. Do you prefer cricket or field hockey?
Cricket.
Football.
Football? Okay, great. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. It's biryani? Biryani or curry?
Biryani or the curry?
Yeah.
Biryani.
Always biryani, come on.
No,
Always.
I like it.
Biryani.
What is biryani? It's fried rice?
So biryani
fried
is...
rice, yeah.
No.
More or less, like if we say it in a simple word, like it's like kind of fried rice. Curry means it's semi-liquid, right? So,
But in the big difference is in biryani you have completely cooked steamed rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fried rice
and you steam
also.
it. In fried rice you kind of fry it.
But it's also cooked, completely cooked.
Yeah. But you fry it also.
Yeah.
With other stuff. In biryani you steam it rather than frying it.
But the thing is, like, we have varieties of biryani also.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is just collective
regional,
noun,
right?
so biryani, but under this we have lots of varieties.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
And final decision, Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Really?
Mickey Mouse.
I think Donald Duck is the more funny one.
I'm just imagining the picture.
Maybe I watched more of Mickey Mouse when I was a kid. I think so.
I see.
Maybe that's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it from my side. And once again, thank you for taking your time and having me here. And I think it was really fun. And once again, thank you, Pratika. Thank you, Ahmar.
Thank you very much.
So much.
And have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
This was Cenibra's Looking at Science podcast. Thanks for listening, and for any feedback, please send us a note. And if you follow us on social media, you'll be alerted about the next issue. All the best, and talk soon.